Well, it's a very noisy day here in Yorkshire. We've got some building work going on next door, so excuse the loud noises. But here you can see my oldest, biggest palm tree, my oldest, biggest Trachycarpus, and I must say it's probably my favourite at this point because just look at that. I've pruned back a few of the old dying fronds recently, so you know, expose a bit more of that trunk. Even so, he's got a lovely spread. You can see you've got the lower fronds down there, and you've got the upper ones about there, and so it gives it this awesome dynamic where it's got a full crown, but not too full, with any dying or dead fronds. The trunk just gets better and better. Zoom in a bit there. So you can see all them thick roots down there, and he's getting pretty tall now. The fronds, they're just amazing. So big, dwarf my hand now. And it's not been too windy recently, so there's not many broken fronds. In the winter this palm looks a bit of a mess really. His fronds are so big, and the spaces between the leaflets are just so wide. They easily bend in the wind, and we get a lot of that here in the winter. But he is enjoying the late summer sun. We've had the perfect conditions here. We've had a lot of heat, a lot of sun. We've also had a lot of rain, so it's been great mixed conditions this year, whereas last year it was just hot, hot, hot. We had the hottest summer on record here in the UK last year, and it was unbearable. Here in Doncaster I believe we had highs of about 35 degrees Celsius. For this part of northern England, Yorkshire, that's pretty hot, and the palm's obviously adapted for it, but he's never experienced anything like it. It was the dryness, not the heat, which was the trouble for most of my palms, because even though they come from hot places, palms love a good drink. So yeah, this summer has been perfect mix of conditions. The flower bed's not doing as great, however we've got the nasturtiums coming through, geraniums down there, a few wildflowers, this purple thing around the corderline. Just to give you that rear view. We've got the old faithful compost heap back there. Might not be the prettiest thing, but it's great for this palm because every February time, roundabouts, I'll empty it and the palm gets a good topsoil cover. Here's what I mean about the wind damage that you get in winter. This is an older frond, and so it's a little bit damaged. And you can imagine by the time March rolls around after winter, every single leaf on this palm will be like that. Just take a closer look in the crown here. Look at this big beautiful thing. It's actually pretty sharp down here, so we've got to be careful. Another gorgeous spear, and that thing is huge. That thing is going to be so much bigger than all the other fronds that are currently out, so I can't wait. Okay, here's my second biggest palm. It's another Trachycarpus Fortuniei. As you can see, the trunk is quite a bit smaller on him. However, he's getting there certainly. Creating a nice base now, it's thickening up down here, and that will push him upwards over the years. You can see the crown isn't as full. The leaves are all kind of just up in one section, but that's okay. This palm's doing great as well. He doesn't grow anywhere near as fast as the other Trachy. However, he's still done really well this year. Nice healthy spear in the middle. And this one will be going in the ground probably about October time. He's going to go in the same bed as the other Trachy, and so they're going to grow together and create a nice tropical look. I imagine when they're older, both next to each other, it'll be like a little palm grove. Can't wait. And so here are the three British seed grown palms we have two Trachycarpus Fortuniei. This one here on the end is the first Trachycarpus I ever got. When I got him, I reckon he was about 3 or 4 years old, and he was tiny. Still had some strap leaves on him. He was just getting his first couple of fronds with splits in them, and for a young palm, he's grown amazingly fast. So much faster growing than the second palm we saw. And yeah, his fronds are huge. In fact, the fronds on this palm are probably the same size as that second palm, which just goes to show, you know, if they're grown in the UK from seed rather than being imported like the other two, you get a much better start to life. Here's the second one I bought. This is another Trachycarpus Fortuniei, so a couple of years younger than the other one. I don't know if you can see that difference in the trunks, but they're pretty much a similar size. The first one's just slightly taller with bigger fronds. The fronds are much smaller in this one. That's just to do with his age. In fact, this one did spear pull 2 or 3 years ago for some reason. You can see that's his first frond that he made after the spear pull incident. Really rare for a Trachycarpus Fortuniei. I'm not really sure why that happened. I know you probably think my pots need weeding, but these are all baby trees that have came up this year. I'm going to put them all on and do my bit for climate change. Now this here is Trachycarpus Nova, so it's a completely different species to the other trachys I've just shown you. And this guy was really small when I got him, probably 2 or 3 years old when he was bought, and it's absolutely shot up. His trunk's already taller than the other two small trachys, despite being much younger, and these trees are renowned for their fast growth. Trees, palms, so much faster growing than the Fortuniei, and just as hardy as well. The fronds are a lot more open and prone to wind damage, unfortunately, but all in all, a beautiful palm. Here we have it, the second palm tree I ever bought. This is a European fan palm, Chamerops Humillis. Some people say Chamerops Humillis, that's wrong. And this thing has absolutely exploded. It's just the general form, it's not a cultivar at all. And this thing was a couple of leaves sticking out the ground when I got it. It had no trunk at all, and now it's got probably half a foot of trunk there, and it would have even more if it hadn't produced all these side branches. But that's just the nature of the fan palm, and so I'm obviously going to let him carry on growing how he wants. Just come round to the back. So yeah, it's got about 5 of these lower trunks coming on. You can see a little baby one there. I'm just going to leave him to do his own thing still. He's loving the hot weather this year, although it's been probably a bit too wet for him. As you can see, he's got a few water marks, these brown spots on his leaves. And that's just a telltale sign that a Chamerops has had too much water. Last year this thing done amazingly. The hottest summer on record, it was so dry. Completely the same as his native habitat in the Mediterranean. So this little guy is my youngest and newest palm tree. I actually haven't bought a palm tree in a long time before I got this little guy in the winter. This is a Trachycarpus Princeps seedling. I've wanted a Princeps for years, but the hardiness was never regarded to be too good, and I didn't want to have another palm tree where I wasn't too sure whether it would be a survivor. However, in recent years they have been proven a lot more hardier than people originally thought, and they are a perfect contender for the UK climate. This tiny little seedling survived the whole winter. We had lows of about -5 this last winter, I believe, and he survived perfectly. Now, Princeps have 2 forms. They have the green form and the blue form. This is just the normal green form, which I believe is hardier. He's actually grown really well since I've had him. He's only grown this sense a bit. However, this little frond here was completely unsplit, so while I've had him, this frond has unravelled itself, and it started splitting, and this frond has grown out and also started splitting, and we've also got a little spear in there which you probably can't see, but its trunk has also thickened up a little bit for a young palm, and he looks in great condition. This palm tree has just been repotted actually, just this week, using a tiny 9cm pot before, and when he arrived he was a bare root seedling, so I was a bit worried about him. Anyways, it's repotting. I've found that the palm tree has done a lot of root growth. In fact, he had a massive taproot coming out the bottom of his tiny pot, which is why he's in this long pot, just to accommodate the long root which is going right down towards pretty much the bottom. So although the palm may not have grown massively this year, you'd never expect it to. It's pretty standard for a young palm tree, especially in the UK. And also he's been focusing on root growth, which means next year we'll probably see a lot more leaf growth. So here I have probably the most different palm in my collection. This is the Brahea Armata, also known as the Mexican fan palm or the Mexican blue palm. Known as the blue palm because of its blue fronds. This palm has suffered recently, unfortunately. I've been away of late and the palm tree was left in the greenhouse. It's actually been too hot and too dry for him, which is just typical for a desert palm. That I would neglect him with too much heat and dryness. Anyway, it's on the recovery now and it's starting to grow again, although he did start aborting some of his fronds. You can see this smaller one up here. That's only from last year and it's gone orange. He's on the mend though, that's the important thing, so I'm leaving him outside until the winter now. And the important thing is he's growing again. I gave him a bit of a feed and I've been watering the palm heavily. As you can see, he's responding well. There's a brand new frond here about to open. There's another spear here, and if you look right in the middle, there's another spear down there. So this is the OG palm. This was the very first I bought. It's a Canary Island date palm, and he's grown a lot over the years. The trunk has really thickened up. However, the palm should be a lot bigger than he actually is. This palm has spear pulled every year for the last 3 years, and this year was the worst. He was left with about 2 fronds left, and that was it. With plenty of rain, watering, good sun, and a bit of fertilisation, he's came back tremendously. And I'm kind of hoping this will be the end to the spear pull days, but that remains to be seen. He's done really well this year. He looks a bit like a big pineapple at the moment, but he's doing really well.